Yo, man, Ricky reporting from Dear Fathers, man, a premier media platform for Black fatherhood. And it's the first episode of Big Dad Energy. And this is Black Man by Mickey Factz. Let's go.
Imagine you stuck in a place where you can call on the cop and suddenly they the ones up in your face. A bullet eject, they say it's an accident, you had a gun in your waist. But wasn't no gun in your waist.
I had to just start it with that, dog, because that's my favorite song on the album, dog.
Wow, that's love. That was the last record we recorded for the album, as you can probably tell, with the insurrection talk, on it. You know what I mean?
It's not like a song, like that's like a record. You know what I'm saying? Like that sound like it just sounded big. It sounded like a big record. And I was like, man, I've been bumping that every day. My son heard it and he liked it. So I appreciate you, man, for this.
Absolutely.
Album.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I wanted to make it for us brothers. We sometimes we go unnoticed at times. Especially during Father's Day and things like that.
Sure.
So I wanted to give us something to be proud of, something to play for our sons, and have it a staple, for within our communities. You know what I'm saying?
Right, man. So we're gonna dive into the album a little later, but I want to kind of just start. If you don't know about, just ladies and gentlemen, this is Mickey Factz, man.
It's Mickey. What's going on, y'all?
Mickey and Ricky. How about that? Mickey and Ricky.
And Ricky. That's hard.
Mickey and Ricky, man. So let's go back really quick. 2007, 2008, probably when I first got wind of you through the XXL cover, right? And fast forward, I mean, just even from that's 2007, over a decade to just continuously be consistent making music and be revered as one of the dopest MCs in the game. What inspired that just consistency and hunger to stay in it? Because you know the game in and out, but what kept that fire lit, brother?
I mean, I had to pay bills, brother. I mean, I quit 6 years after that time, 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And when I quit, it was because some business issues had happened with me and the manager that was managing me at the time. And, I was very depressed and I didn't know what to do and how to kind of navigate, in the music industry anymore. At that point, I had just completely given up. And interestingly enough, I tried to get work for 3 or 4 months and I couldn't because I had no job experience. So when I saw that happen, I said to myself, okay, this is my calling. This is what I have to constantly and continue to do in order to be successful in what it is that I want to accomplish. So yeah, wow. That's the reason why.
Dang, so it's in you. I mean, that's just a power in itself. You tried to escape, but it didn't escape you, man. I think that's just a true testament when something's your calling. It ain't really much you can do about it,
Yeah, man. Listen, I literally was going on. Well, not going on, but I was filling out applications, and nobody would. Sorry about that. Nobody would try to. Nobody. Yeah, that was my battery life. But nobody would, hire me because I had no experience, because I had been rapping for 6 years.
Right.
And, then at that moment, that's when I said to myself, okay, I have to focus on this. This is what I have to focus on, my music.
Yeah.
And ever since then, that's what I've been.
And now you have a whole new inspiration, to just continue the legacy with your son. And congrats, first of all, on the birth of your son as well, man. I appreciate that's big, man.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I truly appreciate that. That was very eye-opening experience on so many levels, man. I can't even begin to quantify what that was like. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that, the well wishes.
How has it? So he's how old now?
He's 1 month and
wow.
He'll be 1 year old. He's 1 year old and 1 month He'll be 14 months, I believe. Next week he'll be 14 months.
Okay. So 14 months. How has fatherhood? So you've been a dad for a little over a year. How is that? How has it changed you?
Oh man, that it's been a very eye-opening experience. Um, I think you know, just to answer your question, even previously, right? In order to answer this question, I have to work harder than I've ever worked before
Hmm.
because I have 2 mouths to feed, right? Before it was just, well, 3 mouths. Before it was just, you know, my wife and my wife and I, but now it's him as well. And you know, ever since he was born, you know, I've dived a little bit deeper into finance to kind of make sure that my family is secure in the event something happens to me, in the event anything happens to my wife. So like I've like this responsibility has basically changed the trajectory of how I view the world and how I view society, how I view everything, because I'm trying to leave a legacy for him,
Yeah.
so that he'll be able to be proud of the lineage that he comes from, you know, not only as a direct descendant of myself and my father, but as a Black man, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure. And I keep trying to stay away from the album, but it keeps coming up because I honestly think you broke it. Like I literally think the album could be like a symposium for like fatherhood because you didn't most I feel like most rappers that write a song about their son, it's about them. But this was like to him. You know what I mean? And you spoke on the for example, you just mentioned the life insurance and the mental health piece. Like that's just
Yes.
that transparency is like super dope. Where do you get, I guess, that transparency from? How important was that to be transparent on this album in general?
Yeah, I used my brother Chris Rivers as an example and as inspiration for this album. As for those that don't know who Chris Rivers is, Chris Rivers is Big Pun's son
Hmm.
and his only son. And I've seen so many posts and so many interviews where, you know, he's constantly saying he wishes he was able to speak to his father about specific things.
Yeah.
And I always was saying to myself, you know, I always wanted to do a project like this for my son, but I used him as an inspiration as what, you know, what would, if I was to pass, what would I want my son to hear from me as a guide to kind of get through life. And that's how I was able to dig deep within myself. And I broke the project up into different uh, conversational pieces, from
Yeah.
spirituality to finance to mental health, to being Black, to being a Black man, dealing with police officers, to his mom. You know, I wanted to convey all of
Yeah.
these poignant conversations into it, you know?
Yeah, that's dope, and that's exactly what I got from it. As you know, as I rock with it, and you mentioned Chris Rivers and him wishing, you know, he was able to have a, I guess, more lengthy relationship with his father. Um, how was your relationship with your father?
My relationship now with my dad is unbelievably great.
Hmm.
Before it was a little tough. Uh, my early, like my father wasn't around in my 20s. So from, I would say the age of, I would say 23 to about 31, like he wasn't, you know, around. Um, and it was tough to kind of navigate through that.
Yeah.
You know, he was dealing with some things with my mom, and you know, I didn't really understand it until I got older, you know. And I think that's, you know, that's just with life, right? Like we don't get why we do or why things happen until you're either in that situation or you're mature enough to really understand
Yeah.
two sides of every story. um, but once we got past that initial 9-year disappearance, you know, he's like my best friend.
That's what's up.
And we talk all the time. Um, you know, so that, yeah.
That's kind
That,
of the. So what was it a conversation that changed that changed from not speaking to him being, in your life? Was it a conversation, or was it an event that happened?
yeah, it was me wanting to get married.
Hmm.
And when it was time for me to get married, it was like, I came to him to not only ask for some funds to make this thing happen, but to also quell the air and lay all the cards out on the table and have this man-to-man talk. At that point I was 30, and when he had left, he was about 40. So not 40, that means he would be like 10. He was about, I want to say, like maybe 50.
Oh, okay.
And he was able to kind of see what he made mistakes on, and I was able to forgive him for these things. And I think it was essential, right, for fathers to kind of do that. And I think
Yeah.
generations past, it was all about providing,
Right.
providing,
Right.
and we missed out on, him and I missed out on key things in my life, like finance, because he's great at finance.
Mm.
So he missed out on that. He missed out on my ascension as an MC. And but I'm just glad that we're here now.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure he was thankful to that as well. It's interesting because I have a similar situation, and what me and my dad never really had a really close relationship, but as I started going to therapy, I started to realize things that I was holding in that was coming out in different situations with my wife and with my kids. And it was because I had this hatred toward my dad, because me and him wasn't as cool as I ever wanted us to be. But we had that uncomfortable conversation. And I mean, we've been as closer now this last year than we've ever been. So I salute you for that, because like you said, our generation, we are kind of going against the grain and kind of changing that narrative.
That's that piece of that song, Lessons.
Yeah.
That's probably, it's the shortest verse on the album, but it's probably one of the most powerful verses on the album, because like you said, as Black people, not even just men, there's been this negative connotation towards mental health and therapists. And we think therapy was psychiatry.
Yeah.
We liken the
crazy. Right. Yeah. So like, it's just something wrong with you,
Right. And we're taught to be strong because we've endured so much and we've gone through so much, but we not realizing that we were alienating, our true emotions and feelings as men. Taught not to cry, taught not to talk about our feelings. You just man up,
apologize, all these things.
Yeah. So, that part of the project is a very powerful part of the project for me when I was writing that,
Did you see a therapist? Because it seemed like you mentioned like your reluctancy to see a therapist, but I actually wrote that down. And I was like, I want to ask you, did you see a therapist? Because you kind of, you were acting, you kind of spit like that. It was uncomfortable, but have you done therapy?
No, we're trying to do it. My wife has been very vocal about us trying to, get therapy done.
Mm-hmm.
And the pandemic has been tough for us to get that done, on top of us moving from New York to Atlanta, changing insurances. It's been a nightmare, but it is something that's on the agenda for 2021. I think it's imperative that happens, because You know, I still, even though, you know, music has been my therapy for a very long time, but that doesn't mean that there still aren't things that need to be unpacked. There still are things that needs to be said. Um, and there's still things that needs to be, um, I would say, exerted from
Mhm.
myself, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
and purged out
Sure, for
in
sure.
order to grow, and not just myself, but my wife as well. And
Mm.
I think once we find the right person or people, um, I believe that we're going to, you know, be even better people than we are already.
For sure. Just a quick nugget, something that I learned in therapy is like you're interviewing, this is random, like this is something like we having a dope conversation, but like it's almost like you're interviewing the therapist. It took me to my fourth one until I found somebody that I felt like I could open up these layers of stuff that I've never told anybody. So, but that's
Right.
something that nobody really told me. I actually read Charlemagne's book.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of it, but he did a mental health book, and he mentioned that one of the chapters is like, don't be afraid to like go to multiple therapists until you find one that clicks. That's just something I want to just give a nugget because that's what nobody told me, and it could be very helpful going through that process, which is kind of overwhelming in itself. Um, but yeah, what you cooking, bro? I'm curious.
So tonight we're making a cheesy meatloaf, mozzarella cheese meatloaf with some mashed potatoes, homemade mashed potatoes. They're boiling right now, and
Are
some
you going
sauteed
in?
spinach. Yeah, man.
You going in?
Yeah, I gotta get it done. You know what I'm
That's what's,
saying? I gotta get it done.
that's what's up, man. So I it's just I feel like this record is, and I keep talking about the record because I'm a hip hop head, man. Like I listen everything. Like I said, I feel like I've kind of grown up with you, just seeing the whole transition. And I hear a lot of music, but I personally have never heard an album this tailored to the young king right there, right? I
Mhm.
know his middle name is Hugh, but I want to call him Hugh because Hugh is such a powerful. Actually, my wife's Instagram name is Hughes of Val because my last name is Hughes, but we play on the hues with like the colors. So when I told her I was doing this, and she was like, "Oh, this is meant to be," and so that's a dope. So I guess my question
Wow.
is, what inspired you to tailor this to him in the faction that you did?
Um,
I mean, have you ever heard the album constructed like this? I guess is my question.
no, no, I haven't. I uh I had to think about all of the things that I wanted to talk to my dad about, all of the things that I had to think about what he
Mm,
would probably want to hear from me if something happened. And I wrote down those concepts and I made sure to tackle them specifically and stay on topic, find production that was suitable for that, which was tough in itself.
right.
Because, you know, as we know, hip hop is constantly evolving and there's different sounds and different um, emotions that go into certain records and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to dig deep, man. And once I figured it out what I wanted to say, you know, it was very easy to kind of put this thing together. It took me about 3 days to write the whole project.
Wow.
Um, and I recorded it in a day.
Dang.
Um, I recorded it all in like 8 hours. Went back in the studio the next day, or like I would say 3 or 4 days later. Took like 4 hours to edit any mess ups and things like that, and then it was done. It was done. I just
You
needed to get the people to
you
see
got
it.
that mug off, man. That's I hope you got some footage of that, man. But it probably was the time frame was so short. Yeah, you and almost had time to pull out your camera, man. That's a quick turnaround on an album, bro.
Yeah. I mean, my engineer was saying I should get some footage, and I was like, yeah, we'll worry about that later
Right.
because I
Yeah.
wanted to get it done. We
Yeah.
was running against the clock. So,
Right.
but you're right. You're absolutely right. I wish I did. And then even in that interim, I produced my wife's poetry album. So like in between
Um,
me mixing and mastering my project, I produced her project. I made all of the beats for her project, which
Wow.
was released on the same day as well.
That's dope. My wife gonna be, I don't know if she hear, but she does poetry too. She gonna be even more hyped when she hear about this this special connection. So I also learned something like new about you, I guess. And this is, I wrote down my favorite bars of the album, right?
Okay.
It's almost crazy because you talk about your son, but you still didn't leave out like the bars though. You know what I'm saying? Like it was one
Right.
we talking about family matters and the cop, and like it went over my head at first. But anyway, he the reason I stopped getting my drink on. I'm on my son trust. There's something he bank on. Family tree placed on my heart. He my acorn until my day's gone. Right. So
Right.
You don't drink or smoke either.
I don't smoke.
Don't smoke.
And I stopped drinking heavily. Like I don't drink as heavy as I used to.
Right. You know what's crazy? I wish I had knew that earlier. Because when I was trying to stop smoking, I would look to rappers who didn't smoke because it would inspire me to not smoke. That's just
right. Yeah.
And but I get 90. I mean, maybe I wouldn't know, but 98% portrayed that they smoke weed. I don't know the actual statistics, but that's just really unique about a rapper because everyone thinks that rappers smoke.
Right. And all of them smoke. And that's
right.
not true. I haven't smoked since I would say 2005.
Dang.
Yeah, that was the last time I did drugs.
Man, I think like that gives like your bars even more just super credibility because you know how when you smoke, you could get in a whole different zone. But when you writing that off just sober thought, I feel like that's pure bar. That's pure you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
man. Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
For sure, man. So I guess so. What's next? You just dropped the project. Hugh, are you still in your creative bag? Are you taking time, spend what you? I know it's kind of difficult. Like, how have you been able to balance, putting on music and having a 1-year-old son?
My wife has been. She's been unbelievable with just making things happen. I don't know how she's able to tackle everything while I go and do the work. Because somebody has to kind of work.
For sure.
or we're all messed up. So she's been instrumental in handling a lot of the daily duties with my son while I go out and take care of, the husbandly duties. So that's how I'm able to kind of get a lot of the things done.
Mm-hmm.
My son is not too, out of control. So even when he is a little rambunctious, it's not to the point where it's crazy.
Right.
He's a very good baby. Not a lot of crying.
You lucked up with that. That's a blessing.
Yeah. He's going through some sleep issues.
Yeah.
But this baby don't be crying, man. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's how I'm able to kind of still move around the way I'm moving around, is because she's taking the reins on a lot while I have to get things done. So I gotta shout her out for that.
Yeah, that's got to, man. I actually crazy. I had interviewed Ozzie Smith a while ago, and he was like, he said the same thing. Like I was like asking him like, how do you balance playing baseball and father? He said, my wife. Like that was his answer. Like it wasn't. He didn't balance it. Like his wife helped him balance. I thought that was just really, just eye opening too. How important it is to have a real one, and just have a wife that understands and believes. So that's, same thing here. Who do you get? Like, do you get any fatherhood hood advice from it? Anybody like you can call up with like some dad advice who can give you like some sound advice?
Sometimes it's my friends, mostly aside from my dad. It's a lot of my guy friends, whether it's Stali or Sky Zoo or some of the homies from around the way. They
Yeah.
might, let me know what to expect. I'm currently preparing for him when he's a teenager. You know, I keep hearing these tales of teenage boys just, feeling alienated for one, and two, feeling like they're the man.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to, read as much as I can to kind of, combat that in a way where it's conducive to us as a unit, a father-son unit. I don't want him to be, out of control, but I also don't want him to be afraid of me to not, be as open as he can with me. So, I'm thinking about how I was as a teenager and how, I felt alienated from my dad and
Mhm.
how I wish he was around a little bit more. So I'm being mindful about that now, before that time comes.
Dang, that's actually pretty intriguing. Just trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
That balance, yeah. It's dope. I hear him now. So what was there? So you got early kind of mentioned just just how your career, you had ups, downs. Was there a major event that happened that kind of helped or change the trajectory of your life when you might have went this way, but something happened, a circumstance or event that changed it for the better?
Um, I would say the biggest moment for me with my career and my life was school. When I was in NYU,
Hmm.
I couldn't take it anymore, bro. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand why I was paying all of this money for school, and I was also working at the time, and the attorneys were making $40,000 a year. So I started doing math, and I was like, okay, if the attorneys,
Right.
these junior attorneys, if they're making 40 grand a year, which probably equals out to 32,000 a year. This is 2005, by the way.
Hmm.
And I'm paying $10,000 a semester at NYU.
Right.
So if I was started to do the math, if I go to school for 7 years, I'm looking at about maybe 80, 90 grand.
Big debt. Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, that's just student loan debt. What happens if I take out credit cards? What happens if I get a car? I'm looking at about 150K.
Right.
And at the bare minimum, I make 40 grand a year, maybe 80,
Yeah.
right? Maybe if I get lucky and I get to a high price firm, 80,000 a year.
Hmm.
After expenses, I'm probably going to be spending 10 grand a year on student loans. And I was like, I'll be paying principal interest. And then once I started doing all of this math, I said, okay, I'm done. And I
Yeah.
stopped going to school.
Dang. And then is that what birthed your rap career?
Yes,
Were you rapping before that?
I was. So I did In Search of the NERD in 2006. I was working at a law firm at the time. I enrolled into school
Mm,
in 2007,
mm,
and I went to school. I dropped out in April. I started to put two and two together. And I was like, no, this doesn't make any sense to me.
right.
This doesn't make any sense to me. Now, mind you, had had I had I gotten to the stock market,
Right.
then that's a way to pay off student loan debt, because over time you let this money gradually, accumulate, and you can take this money out 15 years later and pay off your debt. But at that time, I didn't know anything about the market. I just knew that this math that I was doing didn't make sense to me.
Right.
And I still know attorneys that haven't paid off their student loan debt.
Crazy. That's crazy. It's funny you mentioned the stock market, because I feel like this such a new realm of financial literacy that we're become privy to. Like I'm the same way. I never really knew about stock. I was like, damn, I wish I would have known about this before. But it seemed like you had a financial mind back then, like to be aware to like add up, like, nah, this don't add up, and I guess it's like a blessing in disguise because it gave you the opportunity and the time to, really dive into your MC career.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things, right? Two things. One, my father was incredible at finance, and that was why I was able to kind of be good at math, and why I was able to understand credit and how credit worked. So I always had good credit. And two, my sister. So I was billed as the first one in my family to graduate from college. Everybody wanted me to be the first. I was almost skipped the second grade, I think. I was a genius. I won
Baby,
spelling bees. I won
wow.
science fairs. Um, but when I got to college, it didn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister ended up being the first person graduating out of our entire family with even extended cousins and whatnot.
Wow.
And she still is in debt. Now, she graduated in 2000, I want to say 8.
Wow.
She's still in debt. Um, she's not as happy as I am. Um, you know, and she wants to be a director, right? She wants to be a director. She wrote a screenplay, and this is what she wants to do full time. But she can't do it because she's delegated to not only work, but to, you know, the
Yeah,
constraints
yeah,
of her student loan debt.
yeah.
And I don't have any of that. Thank God, And I'm trying to teach that to my son. I'm trying to teach that to my wife. My wife has some situational debt, but I'm hoping to get that cleared up end of this year. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only able to do that with stocks. I wouldn't be able to do it with just what I make yearly.
Hmm. That's thought you said. If you could leave your one thing with your kids, it'd be don't be scared to live. Um, I think that was just, in a sense, kind of what you're saying. Like, even talking about your sister, like her true passion has nothing to do with school. Like, you don't have to go to school to be a director. But a lot of times we are scared of the unknown, you know. And I'm just kind of reflecting because your album, Hugh, I feel like it's something that I became a better father through, honestly,
Mm,
you know.
wow, man.
Yeah, for sure. I got
That's
three
that's
kids, and
wow. How old are they?
2, 4, and 14.
Mm,
And it's crazy because I didn't even dive into it, but you mentioned like my son is 14, and I'm still trying to find that harmony. And I think it's so special that you are aware of that now instead of being in it and trying to find that harmony, But yeah, man, I think like that's why I was really excited when even this interview got connected and I listened to the album. I became a better father from this
mm.
album. I cannot say that about I've heard damn near every album. I'm a hip hop head,
Wow,
bro.
wow, man.
And like
That's love.
I
That's
can't
love.
say that about nothing. No, man, I think that if anything, you created a completely new realm of hip hop in terms of like direction, So I mean, I'm excited to watch your son grow and hear this, you know what I'm saying? Cause that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait till he's able to fully understand this. I I really I really don't even know how he would react to
But
listening to this.
has it hit you that he's gonna like in a couple years he's gonna be able to hear it and be like, dang, my dad talking to me? Like, have you thought about that?
No. And it's interesting because, I wanted, the reason why I call it an audio last will and testament is because
Mm,
the same way a will is created, if you want to make an amendment to it, you can change it and rearrange some of the things in the will. So every year, every song there will be something new that I add to it, and it'll be like amendum 1, amendum 2, until I retire. So when he's 2 years old, some of the songs, it might have a different chorus, it might have a different verse, it might change a line, but there will be something that's changed because I'll be learning who he is and he's growing. So I'll be preparing him for age 2, age 3, age 4, age 5,
Right.
and he'll be able to listen to the different
Right.
versions. That's I want to be able to create that for him. And I don't even know how. I
Crazy.
mean, okay, so for your son who's 14 years
Yeah.
old, right? Like, did he hear the whole album or just a
He
couple
heard
songs?
a couple songs. I'm a have him ride to it, but he heard. I know he like his favorite song right down were Chin Up, Lessons, and You Can Do It.
Yeah.
Those are his favorite songs. So I feel like you were writing not only to your son, you were writing to the fathers and to other sons. It almost sounds, if you're hearing you talk now about the amendments, like it sounds like it could be a curriculum almost. I asked you, like, who do you go for fatherly advice? Cats can come to this album for fatherly advice.
Yeah,
I feel like it's sometimes it needs to be like a curriculum or something, because you know.
I mean, that's what I wanted to do for us as Black men.
Yeah.
I feel like, you have 3 children, so you can kind of relate to this. It feels like when we have children, there's like a spark in our DNA that just kind of awakens.
Yeah.
And men and female, they or woman, they know how to care and nurture for the child. They'll, whatever it takes, they're going to care and nurture for this child to make sure they are straight in that emotional facet. And for the men who do stay around, there is this sense of pride in wanting to provide for said child and sacrifice their own life for said child. Those are the two main things that men want to provide for their child.
Right.
But that's two sides of the spectrum, and this spectrum is very wide. So it's like, what is in between this spectrum? Right. And that's how I was able to create this album. I was able to, and just from going from track 1 to track 10 real quick, I was able to talk about how I felt when he was born, what went through my body, what went through my mind when he was born, how to appreciate the Black skin you're in, right? Not to be jealous of a lighter shade of Blackness, but appreciate your hue,
Yeah.
your melanin, right? You can do it. And being an encouraging father, right? And also telling him how he makes me feel when I see him from my standpoint,
Right.
right? Being a Black man in America, and how to interact with police officers and how to deal with racism, right? Then dealing with finance and how to, and dealing with finance and friends, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something that is very important. Then we go to Chin Up, which was talking about making the right decision and living up to these decisions no matter what, right? Then Lessons, talking about mental health and to own up to the wrong decisions you make and fight but control your emotions. That's a very emotional record. Then talking about Black women, your mom, right? Treat your wife as
Honoring
with
them.
honor,
Yep.
honoring them, right? Then spirituality, which is number 9, and I made sure to not just alienate other races. I mean other races, other religions.
Mhm.
Don't judge a man by what they study, but who they are, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what makes a person a person. And then the last one is how you, it encapsulated everything and how he makes me feel as a father. So I wanted to get all of this together,
Yeah.
so that us as Black men could hear this and be like, okay, now I know what to do in this scenario, what to do in that scenario.
Yeah, for sure. And you accomplished that, brother. And I'm gonna make sure that I share it to any Black from our platform standpoint, like Dear Fathers, like it coincides exactly with what we're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Like show amazing Black men, Black fathers, and also give them tangible things. We have a mental health thing we do every once a month. We have a book club, like giving these men tangible things to do to add value to their life. And sometimes music is the vessel that makes them get it. It could be therapy, it could be a book, it could be music, it could be a bad situation. Sometimes we don't choose the vessel that changes us, but we got to just be able to tap in all of them, dog. So I appreciate you, dog. I really, it's bigger than you, man. We're talking, man.
And to answer another question, Ricky, you asked me earlier about what's next. What am I working on next? The next thing I'm working on, which is, I wouldn't say it's a direct sequel to Hugh, but it's something that I've felt responsible for wanting to provide for our people, along with this Black father thing. It's a project called the Dinner Table. Dinner Table is going to basically be, how I call Hugh a last audio last will and testament. This is going to be an audio seminar on financial literacy.
That's it.
I want to talk to our people about loans, about credit, about stocks, about options, about savings accounts, about investments, about trucking companies, about entrepreneurism. I want to touch on everything, things that we didn't learn at the dinner table.
Yeah.
But other races talk about at the dinner table. We talk about,
right.
What I heard at the dinner table was the Lakers versus the Celtics.
I said that. Jordan dropped 35 last night. That's it.
That's it. Or the Jeffersons or the Cosby Show. We didn't learn anything in terms of how to be wealthy in this country.
Right.
So I'm going to put this weight on my shoulders to make music that's digestible for our people to learn about specific things. Take the baton from my brother Nipsey, rest in peace, and go even further with it.
It's dope, man. So with that being said, when you do that, we got to swing around and we got to do like a live or some symposium because we got to find all these different avenues so people can hear this. What's crazy, what really made my ears open, the book club we do once a month called Books and Bourbon. The book is Powernomics this month by Claude Anderson, talking about financial empowerment, Black financial empowerment. So that's what we own. That's why I'm excited about that, dog. So when that happens, we gotta swing around and I want to do whatever I can to spread that message and assist in that.
Absolutely,
for sure, man. Well, I appreciate you, dog. Real talk. I feel like I could just chop it up with you all day, man. But so this is big. This is actually my first. So I do the podcast. This is my first little episode of Big Dad Energy. Okay, so this is like really special to me. My first one. So Big Dad Energy. How do you exude Big Dad energy?
I exude Big Dad energy by waking up every morning and getting my son from his mother, who's probably had him for most of the night, and spending time with him the first thing in the morning. We sing the ABCs. Shout out to Sesame Street and the many YouTube pages that's out there that sing this stuff.
For sure.
Then we go out and play and we read a little bit. And then I'm out there being, a father, in terms of, my work, getting that done, and then, stopping in to see him and play with him a little bit more. And I try my best to show him that I'm constantly working. And I think when he gets older, he's going to be able to realize that and see like Dad was always, doing whatever he could to make our situation better. And I don't think, as kids, we understand that until we become fathers and see what our fathers were doing. But I want to be able to have that balance of the emotion and being able to be as open as possible with my son on a consistent basis. So I want to be able to exude that every single day with him and tell him I love him, tell him I'm proud of him when he takes his one finger and plays his toy piano.
Yeah.
I clap like he just played a Mozart piece. Got to support everything that he does.
That's big dad energy right there, man. as big dad energy, man. I appreciate you. I'm in there. Actually, I'm not, because you said something. So one of our journalists interviewed LeVar Ball the other day, right? And he was saying, man, how do you push your sons and not have them be mad and enjoy it? And he stopped and said, no, I don't push them. I lead them. That's the difference. So LeVar Ball, he got 3 sons in the league right now. You just actually communicated exactly what he said. Like, your son sees you. Like, he was leading by example. And that was his formula for success. So I appreciate you. Mickey and Ricky, man, it's big dad energy, man. I appreciate you. Go make sure you go check out Hugh. It changed the game, man. Real talk.
Love.
Peace.